how I would fit a shirt pattern to Bean with his measurements. This is going to be a little more challenging because, like we noticed, he is a size 18 months in the chest and waist, but a size 3T in the hips and height. So it's going to require a little more modification actually than the pants did to get things to fit the way that I would like. And I'm actually going to take my ruler out for this one because I think I'm going to need it. The first thing I want to check is his sleeve length because that's going to determine which size sleeve that I start with. So his sleeve length was 14.5, but this particular pattern has a cuff here. And I can see that the cuff is 2 inches. So the finished cuff is going to be 1.5 inches, which means that I want to cut out a sleeve that's 13 inches because then when I add the 1.5 inches for the cuff, it will be just the right length of sleeve. And actually it needs to be 13 inches plus 1 because this pattern has 1/2 inch seam allowances and there will be a seam allowance on the top and bottom of the sleeve. So we're looking for a 14-inch sleeve here, and with my ruler I am going to line it up on the bottom, and it looks like, just like his pants, he's long-limbed, and he's actually between the size, he's actually a little above the size 4 for that length of sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark where the top of his sleeve is, there, for his particular frame. And then I'm going to start with the front and back of the pattern that I'm going to adjust for width. I'm going to start at the point of the underarm here, and that needs to be at the 18-month size for his chest. But this pattern goes down below his hips. So I'm going to want to come out to the 3T width for the hips. And all I'm going to do, and I'm going to come out to the 3T length as well. So all I'm going to do is line up the 3T length, and I'm actually going to cut a diagonal line here to the 3T length. It's very subtle and it probably won't even show on him that it's a diagonal cut, but it will show that it fits him well. I'm going to go ahead and trace out the 3T length that he needs here to remind myself to cut there. I'm going to go with the 3T arm side length here because I'm going to need that for the sleeve. And I don't usually mess with the neck at all. I'm not going to come in or worry about coming into the 18-month neck. I'm going to trace out the 3T neck there. All right, let's move on to the back of the shirt. I'm going to do the same thing, that I'm going to go from the point here, the arm side of the 18-month size, down to the length of the 3T month size. And I'm going to make that diagonal line for him. And then I'm going to come up and trace out the arm side part for the 3T. Because I went ahead and left the arm side on the 3T, I don't need to do anything to the yoke piece here. I'm just going to cut that one out straight 3T, because this is where it matches up that back piece I just outlined. And this is going to be the shoulder, which on the front I did leave it alone as a 3T. Alright, let's go to the collar. The collar size is going to be easy since I left the neckline as a 3T. I'm just tracing out this 3T collar. And then the only thing left is the sleeve. So, he actually has these really long arms that are apparently longer than the size 4 sleeve. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, it looks like about a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to make myself several marks here on different points of the sleeve that are a 1/2 inch above the 4T line, which is the one that matched the length of his arms. So when I connect those lines, and I'm just following along with the shape of the 4T sleeve, when I connect those lines, I'm going to get a shape like that. If you want to be much more precise, which actually I probably should be on this particular pattern because the sleeve is set in, you can use a compass. And I can take my compass and I can measure out that width, and then I can just keep the point right on the 4T line while I trace out that sleeve curve. and the pencil side will show me that I actually eyeballed this pretty well. So that's how you would do that with a compass. Now, because I did take in the width a little bit at the arm side here, I am going to need to take in the width of the sleeve just a little bit. So you can see that the difference in width from the arm side there is actually 1/2 inch because I went down 2 sizes and they're each a 1/4 inch difference. So there's a 1/2 inch less length on the edges of the sleeve that I'm going to need now. So, the easiest way to do that is actually just to measure in 1/2 inch from that 3T line and make a mark, and that's where I'm going to want my sleeve to start. So I take that down and we're going down to the 3T width. You can see how this makes the sleeve seem just a little bit different than the drafted one. And again, from the 3T, I'm just going to go up 1/2 inch, or in 1/2 inch. So I want the sleeve to start there. And then I'm taking that down to the 3T line. And I need to make sure that these two seams are the same length. So I am going to use my ruler and I'm going to double check. That one is 11 1/8, and this one is 11 1/8. So that's going to work for my sleeve now. I could also measure the sleeve cap and just double check it to make sure that it's the same length as that sleeve cap for the 3T minus 1 inch because I took a 1/2 inch off on each side. Or I could just measure it and make sure it's the same length as the 18-month sleeve cap because that's the width that I wanted there. However, I did come up a little to the 3T for the shoulder, so I'm going to actually want it to fall in between those two measurements. I don't want it to be quite as short as the 18-month or I'm going to have to stretch it to get it to fit, and I don't want it to be quite as long as the 3T because I came in a 1/2 inch on this end.